What's up, guys? My name is Gary Blackwood, and today we'll be breaking down some street poker from the Lodge live in Austin. This is a 25.50 game with the straddle all the way up to $400. Like I always say, the games are good in Texas. Let's not mess around. Let's jump straight in. Action is going to fold round to Mariano in the small blind, and with 7-5 offsuit, he decides to limp in for $400. Now, there's no stand-up game, no squid game, no prop games of any kind. So these players are not too incentivized to get out of line pre-flop here. I think this call is a bit too loose, especially for an extra $375. If it's an extra $25, I can get behind it. But $375 more with such a weak hand, especially when you have four players behind who can still go ahead and raise here, I think we should just let it go. Your limping range here should be hands that don't want to raise to $1,200 out of position versus four players, but do want to see a flop. Hands like pocket threes, ace deuce suited, 9-7 suited, but the offsuit trashy hands, I think we can just let them go. Action folds on over to Trey in the $200 straddle, and he completes for $200 more with 4 deuce suited. I like this call. His hand is suited. His price is better. There's only one player behind who can raise here, so I really don't mind his decision to go ahead and make the call. T1000 is in the $400 straddle, and he looks down at Queen 10 suited. He raises it on up to $3,000. I think his hand is a mandatory raise here versus two limpers. He makes it 3K to go off of about 43K. Now, he is the effective stack here, and what that means is both other players in the hand cover him. So let's convert his raise size into big blinds. Remember, the $400 straddle is on here, so we just assume that is the size of the big blind, and this is a 7.5 big blind isolate. Remember, these guys are 100 straddles effective, i.e. 100 big blinds effective here. So this is a pretty big raise at this stack size. I think around 5, maybe 5.5, maybe 6 big blinds is a little more appropriate, but I think this size is just a little too big. He's also in position versus two limpers, so no real need to go massive here with any part of your range. I like the decision to raise, but I do think it is a little too big. Action is back on Mariano, and he is going to make the call here with his 7-5 offsuit. Again, I think this is a little too loose, out of position, potentially multi-way. As well as that, this is a bigger raise size, so our price is poorer, which means we need to call less often. I think you just want to be continuing with a stronger range and letting this one go. And we're not that deep here, as mentioned, only 100 big blinds effective. So I personally just let it go, but maybe that's why I'm standing here and Mariano is sitting there. Trey is closing the action, and he makes the call. The good thing about Trey's hand here is that he's very likely undominated by both these players' ranges, given how low his cards are. If he's got like 9-7 suited, for example, he starts to be dominated by the raising range and Mariano's calling range. Remember, Mariano can have hands like Jack-9 suited here, for example. So it is a little loose, but there are some benefits to calling a hand like 4 deuce suited compared to a hand like 7-5 offsuit. We go three ways to the flop, and it comes down 8-8-4 with two spades. Mariano and Trey checking on over to T1000, and he keeps up the aggression by betting out on this flop for $3,000. You might think his size looks weak here, but you are supposed to use smaller bets in several different spots when you're the aggressor. One is when you're multi-way, and another is when the board is paired, so I like his size here. However, I don't love this specific combo to barrel with. This is not an amazing board for the raiser here, especially versus two limpers. So it's not a range bet. We're not just betting our entire range, and when we're not range betting, we need to be more selective with our c-betting combos. Having a flush draw or a backdoor flush draw here would be much more appealable, but our heart and diamond combos that elect to c-bet want to have as much backdoor straight draw ability as possible. So I'd much rather c-bet with a hand like 10-9 of diamonds, Jack-9 of hearts. These types of hands can turn a lot of open-ended straight draws that can continue to barrel. It sounds very pernickety, but the margins between a good barreling hand and a bad barreling hand are very, very slim. Action is back on Mariano, and he busts out the limit hold'em check raise to $6,000. This is a min raise. On paired flops, as the caller, you are supposed to use small raises. And remember, these guys are not too deep, so I quite like his small size here. As for the combo selection, you can't just raise your flush draws only on this board as your bluffs, because a lot of your flush draws are supposed to raise flop, bet turn, and then give up on the river. And that means you're not going to have enough bluffs on the river. So you need something that can raise the flop and just blast off. So I really like this combo selection as well. Trey is sandwiched in between these two maniacs and has to fold the best hand. I like his decision to fold. I don't see how he can continue versus a bet and a min raise, so I like his decision to just let it go. Action is back on T1000, and he decides to call here in position for 3k more. Now, this is a really gross spot. On the one hand, it's a min raise. We're getting an insane price. We're in position. We also don't want to look really weak by just bet folding to a min raise here. But on the other hand, our hand just has nothing going for it. Minimal backdoor straight draw, no backdoor flush draw. We could be dead versus an 8. We're losing to bluffs like king deuce of spades. I understand the appeal to continue here, but I would just let this one go. I've been lucky enough to share the felt with both of these guys. They're crazy players. They're very good players, and they've got their reasons for playing like this. But in theory, even though the price is amazing, the solver will still want to just let this one go. T1000 does make the call on the flop, and we see the 4 of diamonds roll off on the turn. Mariano is going to keep up the aggression here by betting out for $12,000 into a pot of 23k, so a little over half pot. I would like to see a bet of 7 or 8k here on the turn from Mariano. His opponent has bet called a min raise on the flop. So yes, there are some overpairs and even some 8x, but there are a lot of air combos. Hands like king queen with 1 spade, jack 9 of clubs, ace king high, the list goes on. That's quite a lot of combos of just air, essentially. When your opponent's range contains a lot of air on a paired board, you favor betting small in this line to target that air and go ahead and make it fold. If Mariano had bet $8,000 on the turn here and T1000 makes the call, that means there's $39,000 in the middle going to the river with $27,000 behind. So it's a more appropriate stack to pot ratio, and his bluffs are more likely to be successful if he does jam the river. Action back on T1000, and with just queen 10 of hearts, he's not going to call his turn bet. He's just going to fold, right?
All in.
All in from T1000.
Wrong. He moves all the way in. Just incredible street poker from both these guys. And generally, when you're playing extreme street poker like this, it's normally the guy who sticks in the last largest bet who's going to win the pot. T1000 moves all in, of course, bluffing with the best hand. Just a sick read from him that Mariano doesn't have anything.
That's one of the things you can do.
Mariano obviously has to let his hand go, and T1000 gets to windmill the bluff across the table. A truly sick turn jam by him. He's floated the flop with a reason, with intentions, and he's followed through and made his opponent fold. It's a really nice bluff by T1000.
You don't have to show, do you?
I wanted to show that one.
So there you have it, an incredible hand from 2 very good players. I've given you a breakdown of how the solver would approach this spot for both players, but sometimes you just got to throw the solver out the window and get into the streets and play some street poker. These guys are both fantastic live poker players, and they've got reasons for the lines that they take. It's not just a case of they're clicking buttons. There's method to the madness. And like I say, normally when you're playing street poker, it's the player who gets the bet biggest last who wins the pot more often. Thank you very much for tuning in. Let me know in the comments what you think about my breakdown, how you would have played these hands. My name is Gary Blackwood, and I'll see you in the next one.